Let me get 1, 2, 3. Saints fans and who that's from all over the world. This is Kyle T. Mosley of the Saints News Network. I'm here tonight with my man Bob Rose and our special guests, Lonn Dunbar, to talk about the NFC Championship. Going to be in the Mercedes-Benz Superdome with our beloved boys in the black and gold. What's going on, fellas?
Not much, man. Going good around here. I'm happy.
We appreciate you joining us, Lonn, and as per the promise you gave us a couple of weeks ago, that if the Saints and Rams would clash in the NFC Championship game, that you indeed would join us. So we thank you for honoring that. And I do believe you have moved ahead of Mr. Lyndon Stevens as the most appearances on our little Bayou Blitz show. I have no award for you, but other than a pat on the back and a thank you for your friendship.
Nah, man, the pleasure of being here is all mine. I appreciate it, and I'm glad I accomplished that feat. Still competing in my old age.
Hopefully we'll have you on many more times. But guys, this is a clash of the Titans, for lack of a better term. And it was a meeting that was circled, I think, by both teams, most NFL experts and many NFL fans since very early in the season. I don't think any one of us can question that the two top teams in the NFC are meeting for the right to go to Super Bowl 53. How about you, gentlemen?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, man. They're the two best teams in NFC, and they deserve to play each other. So it's going to be exciting. It's going to be fun to watch, and that dome's going to be rocking.
Yeah, well, our boys, they earned the right to be able to host this great event inside the Superdome, but it's also great for the city, great for our fans, and I know the spirit of Mr. Benson is looking down on us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's no question about it. And I mean, before we get into the game, let's give all the credit in the world to Mrs. Benson. I mean, she has really taken the torch that Mr. Tom Benson passed on to her, and it seems like has followed in his big footsteps and continued a great ownership for this New Orleans Saints team. I mean, she has seemed to be so instrumental throughout the community all year long, really taking a step in the forefront. And I mean, she lost her husband, guys, and let's not forget that and what kind of personal loss that is. But she's been able to overcome that and, been such a big part of this not only team but organization. So all the credit in the world to her.
I absolutely agree. The Benson family is amazing. And it's so fitting for her to take over and be able to lead this thing. She used to be at practices, at games, every last one of them. So I know how much she loves the Saints, and I know how much she loves the city of New Orleans. So it's certainly a blessing to see her just continue to strive and produce some great things with this community and with that team.
Definitely, and she does it with such class and finesse.
Absolutely, effortlessly. She does it effortlessly. It's amazing.
And Lonn, I mean, you've talked in glowing terms of Mr. Benson before.
Yeah.
During your career with the Saints. Did you have an opportunity to get to know Mrs. Benson very well?
Yeah. Again, they're very hands-on when it comes to their position and with the Saints. They're always in practices, in the locker room. They're not really in meetings very often, but their spirit's there. Anytime that after games they walk through the locker room and talk to you, and they have a personal connection with almost every player that's on that team. Man, if you're there for a while and you're playing, and you're a part of it. They have that connection. They know your name, and they're going to sit down and talk to you and just talk about a little bit of everything, whether it's football, whether it's life. A little bit of everything, and I've always had respect for the Benson family, and I'm just really excited and happy to see Mrs. Benson being able to bash in this success from the Saints, and I know Mr. Benson's watching over these boys, man, and it's amazing. I know he's happy.
Oh, there's no question. No question he's got to be. And like you said, Joel, on that entire Benson family. And I don't think enough credit has been given to them over the years. We've seen so many owners throughout not only the NFL, but sports in general, take on too much of, shall we call it, a hands-on approach to football itself when they aren't really football people. No disrespect intended against anybody.
No.
But Mr. Benson has always done a terrific job of putting the right people in the right places for this organization to have success. And to be able to set aside your ego and do that is really a testament to him.
It really is. It really is a testament to him and how much he's like just grown within the knowledge of football, and how much Mrs. Benson has done the same, and how they can. I mean, even we were talking about it, like when Sean had his few down years, to stick by, Coach Payton and Mickey Loomis and those guys, and that right there just speaks a lot about the character of that family. Again, I mean, I don't think you can find one Saints player that can talk, ill about the Benson family. They've always been great. They're a special bunch of people, and they're really up there with the best owners in the NFL, best owners in sports. To be honest with you.
I mean, glowing terms indeed. Now, Joel, as most know, you started your career with the New Orleans Saints. You played your first 4 seasons with them, played in a few playoff games, and, of course, was a part of the Super Bowl championship team in 2009. But you left New Orleans after 2011, and you went to none other than the St. Louis Rams, where you had a terrific season in 2012. Played for them for 3 years before winding up your career in New Orleans. Talk about your experience with the Rams a little bit. Obviously, a different city, but certainly a different coaching staff and roster, but much the same management team, ownership team rather, was in place. So talk about your experiences with the Rams.
My experience with the Rams was a fairly good one. It would never top the experience that I've had with New Orleans. Again, I think it's just a deep-rooted love and appreciation for the Saints and that ownership. And to not talk bad about Mr. Kroenke, he's just not he's not like the Bensons. But it's a different team, different city, different atmosphere, different coaching staff. I still enjoy my time in St. Louis. I enjoy my time as a Ram. I appreciate the opportunity that it gave me. I know I got a couple buddies that are still playing for the Rams that are going to suit up against my Saints, and it's fun to just have fun with them and talk trash with them a little bit. I wish those guys success. Not too much success, but I wish them success nonetheless. But it was a fun experience to play, and obviously play in New Orleans, but to have that opportunity to go to St. Louis and try to lead my own defense and play with some other guys and get that experience, I do cherish those times.
How weird was it, or how did you feel the first couple of times? Because I think you played the Saints at least twice when you were with the Rams.
Yeah.
How did it feel going up against your former team? Obviously, a lot of friends. Were you conflicted, or were you pretty fired up about the opportunity?
I was fired up about the opportunity, but you're always a little conflicted just because they are buddies of yours. And at that point in time, I was just, I think I was fresh off that team, so I knew a lot of the players on our roster. But it's fun. You always want to get after them, just because. I still had that bitter taste in my mouth. I wanted to stay in New Orleans, but unfortunately, it just didn't work out that way. So that bitter taste is always in your mouth. But you're just getting out there and playing football, man. At the end of the day, when the ball snaps, it's read and react and play ball.
How do you see this NFC Championship game lining up? I mean, the Saints got off to a little bit of a slow start. But then really woke up and absolutely dominated the Philadelphia Eagles over the final 3 quarters. And the Rams won in a way that we haven't seen them win a whole lot during the 2018 season. They won a physical knock-down, drag-out brawl kind of through the mud, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
Something that we haven't seen this team be real successful at. So how do you see this game shaping up, particularly at the beginning on Sunday?
Actually, I think it's going to be a low-scoring, like, slugfest. just because the initial game was just so high scoring. I don't think it's going to be one of those games. I think it's going to be. I think both teams are going to be extremely focused, and it's going to be a hard fought battle. It is to say something about um, the Los Angeles Rams that they came out and played physical and won a physical game. That's something that we haven't seen them do. I don't know if we've seen them do in the last 2 or 3 years. But to their credit, they played that kind of game. I don't know if they can play that kind of game in the dome with New Orleans. New Orleans is used to coming and being able to play a physical game or being able to play a fast-paced game. I remember Sean used to always say, you build your team to come back. You always build your team to come back. So, and what he meant by that is being able to play fast and get points in a hurry, but also be able to, ground and pound and be able to be balanced, have a balanced attack. And I think New Orleans, the Saints are just used to it, man. They're used to playing that way. They're used to being that way. They're a nasty, smash mouth kind of football team with the defensive players, Cam and Davis and all those guys. They're used to it, man. I don't know if the Rams can take that 2 weeks in a row. That's a beating. When you're doing that, and that's a beating. It's tough on your body.
To mention that, Lonn, I mean, those guys with Anderson and Gurley, but more so Anderson, he was really hitting it and pounding it inside on the runs.
Yeah.
Were you surprised to see what they were able to accomplish against the Cowboys?
I was surprised to see that simply because I had a lot of respect for the Cowboys defense, and I knew that the Cowboy defense in the front seven in particular was playing well and they're playing strong. I'm not very surprised by that by LA's offensive line. I think I have a tremendous amount of respect for Roger. Roger's a tough football player. And I have a tremendous amount of respect for, I think his last name is Whitworth. He's been around in the league for a long time. He's been playing this game for a long time, and he knows what he's doing. So I think I just have a respect for those guys and the way they carry themselves. And Anderson's a tough back, man. He's always been a solid kind of shifty guy who can pound you. So he just played his game, and not to mention he has what does football players call fresh legs. So he still has these fresh legs up under him that a lot of guys are, they're in the week 18 now or something like that for him. So, I expected him to play that way. I expected him also to play that way when Dallas was kind of, talking bad about him. So, you expect the guy to come out with a little extra juice in his system, and that's just not what New Orleans is going to do, man. They're not going to give him. We're not going to give him that added energy, man. We're not going to say some things that put it bullet board material. We're not going to do things like that, man. It's just going to, handle business as normal, be focused, play tough, and when Sunday comes around, it's just you and I. And that's how that thing is ran in New Orleans, and that's how it's going to be played come Sunday.
Now you say that, yet, and I agree with you, but we have seen an interesting trio of trash talkers all week long between Sean Payton, Michael Thomas, and Mr. Marcus Peters. Now, all three guys, that's kind of who they are.
Yes.
So, I mean, it's not like anybody is stepping out of their element or anything like that. And, it's entertainment for us, to be honest with you. But as a player in that locker room, how much, if at all, does that kind of thing motivate you if an opponent talks kind of down to you? Or if your own teammate talks, do you feel like you have to step up your own game, or do you just go about, you're Lonn Dunbar, you play your game?
So I can only give it to you from a defensive perspective. Anytime you hear an offensive guy saying anything like that, it's game on. It's game on from that moment. It's game on. So, Mike plays on the outside, and those guys on the outside, they have a different, you kind of let them go. They have a different persona. They just handle themselves different. They're not always in the mix. And what I mean by that is just like at the line of scrimmage, banging heads every play, doing those things. So when a receiver's talking or a defensive back's talking, you're like, yeah, whatever, man. You guys are on the outside. Y'all just cover each other. Like, yeah, whatever. We got other things to handle up in the line of scrimmage where big boys play. So, As for Sean does that all the time, and you get fired up when Sean does it, man. It's not too many coaches come out there and they, you can feel their energy and you can feel it through their play calling and just the way he sets up things. Again, I think I've said this before. I mean, I've never played with a coach. I've never played for a coach outside of Sean and Gray that you feel like you're in a game every time you play. You feel like you can win a game every time you play. That doesn't happen very often, man. I've been in NFL a couple times with a couple different coordinators, and you are like, it feels like sometimes you're just, throwing darts up against the wall. You really don't know what you're doing. But those two guys, especially Sean, he makes sure you're prepared and he makes sure you have an opportunity to win a game every time. And you can't argue with that, man. That makes you want to play for him. And he's not afraid to, put step on the gas a little bit. He's not afraid to do it. So when that happens, you're all behind him. And that's the way he's built that team, man. Those guys are excited, man. They love when Sean gets excited. That's why when they make plays, they run over to him and they're pushing him and they're yelling at each other. And that's why they do that, man. Because Sean, he creates that atmosphere. He creates that kind of tension in practice and meetings and the weight room. He'll come in the weight room and start yelling for no reason, or he's in there and he's trying to work out. He might hurt himself. He just creates that kind of atmosphere where you are always competing. Like, it's funny, man. You'll walk in there midday and Sean's in there working out and he's trying to push something heavy and you're looking at him like, man, you're gonna hurt yourself. And he starts talking trash to you at that point, and you're like, oh man, like that's the kind of coach he is. And I've been in a lot of teams, and you walk into a weight room and a coach is in there, he looks like he's doing yoga or something, and you're like, what the hell are you doing? So Sean's in there trying to actually lift weights, so it's fun to see, man. But he creates that kind of atmosphere for you where you're always competing, you're always in a game, you're always gonna push yourself, and he'll show up, man. He'll we used to have competition Fridays where he's gonna drop the ball in the middle of nowhere, offense versus defense. Like, stakes are on the line, brother. If you lose, you have a hot dog that week. Like, it's serious, man. He always created that kind of tension, and it just made us play better. And that's, I know that's how he has that team, and that's why they're rolling the way they're rolling. So I'm excited to see those guys play. And back to your original point, they're gonna play for Sean, man. No matter what he says, he can say anything he wants. They're gonna play hard for him.
Oh, good. Yeah, and it is gonna be entertaining, no doubt.
Yeah.
Both teams are loaded with star power on both sides of the football. But guys, as we know, the Saints lost one of their big stars this past Sunday when defensive tackle Sheldon Rankins went down with an Achilles injury. And first and foremost, we're praying for you, big guy, for a fast and speedy recovery, and all health to you. But Lonn, tell us. You were a linebacker, so you had some talented defensive linemen in front of you.
Yeah.
What happens when you lose a guy like Rankins? A, how does that affect your game as a linebacker? And B, do the Saints have it's hard. You're not going to replace a talent like Rankins.
Yeah.
But how big is his loss going to be in this game?
It's always a big loss when you lose a guy like him, man. I feel bad for him because he's played his ass off all year long, and he deserves the right to continue to play in these playoff games. But unfortunately, injuries is part of this game. So I wish him a speedy recovery as well. But back to your point, it's hard to play in a game when you lose a guy like that. Sean creates this next man up attitude. So I'm fully certain the next man that's coming into play, which he did on Sunday, this past Sunday, played well, and they're just going to get him better, and they're going to get him more familiar with the starters and how the starters play and how where someone at and his body movements and things like that. As a linebacker, you're always concerned at first, just because it's a guy that hasn't played as many snaps and hasn't seen as much action and things like that, but once you get him to a point where he's comfortable and you know where he's going to be, then you're perfectly fine. And most of the time as a linebacker, what they played its 4-3 defense, which we kind of played in the back. You can only do two things to a gap. You either triangle a gap or you put a man in a gap. That's the only way you can stop a run game. Triangle a gap or put a man in a gap. And You tell your defensive line, your new defensive lineman, I don't care what you do. I don't care if you're in it, in your right gap, in your wrong gap, get in one. Because if you get in one, I can get in the next one, and that's all that matters to me. You just got to make a decision and make your decision quick, because once you make your decision, I can make mine. And if they have that kind of rapport with that new guy, and that thing's just rolling, and he's doing what he's supposed to be doing, which I fully expect him to do. Those linebackers aren't gonna be worried about that, man. That's you're not worried about that. You get where you're supposed to be, or you get in one of those gaps and let me play off you, and at the end of the day, we'll make each other right.
Oh, great.
But Joe Lonn, can I ask a quick question? Based upon what we saw, Rankins is down, but big guy Amiata, he's going to fill in, and he's done a very good job in his stead. And I know the guys are going to rotate with Stallworth and Davison as well. Yeah. What was kind of different with the Rams? I noticed they were doing some double team blocking up front. How does that help open up the run game for those guys?
So it's what they call a G chip, where they double a nose or a three technique, and they're trying to get him out of the gap and also trying to get leverage on a backer. So what a backer has to do to help his D tackle in that system is he has to go now. He has to go as fast as he can, because the faster he goes, the faster the double team comes off. And if the double team comes off fast, now the tackle can get in his gap, and now we can play gaps fast. We can play the proper gaps. So as a linebacker, you understand that some plays are zone schemes, which is a G scheme, and some plays are gap schemes, which is a power running back power scheme. As long as you understand and can recognize those plays quickly, you know where you're supposed to be, and you can help your D tackle by getting a body off him, man. It's 2-on-1. That's 700 pounds versus 300 pounds. He's gonna lose every time. So it's your job to get that extra guy off him, just so he can play in his proper gap, and then you can play fallback, or you can play face technique in terms of your gap or whatnot. So I'm sorry I'm using like football terms, but I don't know how to explain it any other way.
No, we appreciate it.
Without a doubt. Yeah, without a doubt, it's one of the pleasures of having you on. You could tell you're a coach too, because you just the way you explain things, and you break it down in its simplicity and why you're doing this and why you're doing that. So I mean, it's a fantastic job.
I appreciate it. I love football, man. I was a student of it, man. I was the guy staying up late watching that stuff, man. I was a student of the game.
Joe Lonn, did the Saints offensive line really seem to struggle, especially again early in the game? Now they found their rhythm just like the rest of the team. And we came to find out after the game that Andrus Peat had hand surgery during the team's bye week. So kudos to him for gutting it out. But again, it is the playoffs. Do you see the Saints line having trouble with this Rams defensive line?
So, I mean, they definitely started slow. I think they started playing much better in the second half. That I think that's just knocking off the rust, to be honest with you. Now, there are points in the game where they struggled at one point or another, but you got to understand that some of these guys are playmakers. Fletcher Cox is a playmaker. Like Michael Bennett is a playmaker. Sean said it earlier. He said it earlier today. Aaron Donald's a playmaker, and it doesn't matter what happens. You see him show up time and time after again. So some of the stuff you have to credit to that guy is just being that talented. You want to contain these guys as much as you can, but some of these guys are just that talented. I think that the offensive line will play a much better this week, just because they've gotten that rust knocked off. The guy Pete, I played against him when I was there my last year. He's strong, man. He's tough. So to play through an injury like that, I commend him. It's playoff time. You'll play through anything during the playoffs, to be honest with you. But he's a tough guy, and I know that. I believe that offensive line. I've seen Sean coach it. I've seen them be together. I know Bushrod. I know Armstead. I know these guys, so I know they're going to play and show up. And I expect them to play well. Now, is Aaron Donald going to make plays? Absolutely. Like, it would just be a lie to say anything else. Is Sue going to make plays? I'm pretty sure of it. Fowler going to make plays. I'm pretty sure of it. It's just about containing them and not allowing them to make as many plays. And if you can do that, you win. You count that as a win. When you're playing against all-pro, former all-pros, they're going to make some plays, and that's the way football goes. You're just trying to keep them from making as many plays.
In the first in the first matchup, those guys got kind of frustrated because they couldn't get to Breeze as fast and as effectively as they thought they were. And Marcus Peters, he has a lot of emotion. Talib has a lot of emotion. Donald shows his emotion, and Sue, of course, he is highly emotional. Do you think it's going to be key for the Saints to be able to be aggressive first, get on the board as many times as possible, and also put them in a situation where they are trying to attack Breeze, but if we limit their effectiveness by getting the ball out quickly, will that emotion crop up again?
It's certainly going to be emotional. I think when you play defense, you have to be emotional, and all three of those guys are highly emotional. Four of them are highly emotional, that helps them and that hurts them at times. And I'm pretty sure that's how. I mean, don't get me wrong. That's what they built their career on. Playing that way is how they became the great players that they are. I believe in. I know that they teach. I know that New Orleans teaches the 3 yards behind the center. If you can protect those 3 yards behind the center, Drew's gonna make a hell of a lot of plays, and that's why the center guard combination has always been a pretty damn good combination in New Orleans. As long as I've been around, as long as Drew's been there, it's been a pretty good combination. If you can control those 3 yards, Drew can step up. He can get the ball out quickly. He can make the plays that he needs to make. Anytime they're disruptive within those first 3 yards of the behind the center, it's always a long day. I don't know if you've ever noticed that, but it's always going to be a long day. So I think initially we're talking about controlling those 3 yards. If we can control those 3 yards, Drew's going to make some plays. And once you start making plays, those emotions on the outside are going to start heating up a little bit. They're going to start doing some things that are, uncharacteristic. Or I don't want to say uncharacteristic because they've done it all the time. So characteristic, but they're going to start doing some things that they shouldn't be doing. And some flags will start coming out. Some big plays are going to start happening. And the motto in New Orleans is you get up by 2 touchdowns. You get up by 2 touchdowns, man, everybody gets to eat now. Everybody's happy. Everybody's happy. That D-line, everybody's bringing out, like they said, Zeke had two spoons during the playoffs. That D-line, you get up 14 points. Everybody has 2 spoons. It's time to eat. Like, it's time to go out, get after the quarterback. It's time to punish them. It's time to get them in 3rd and longs. Get off the field. It's time to run up the score on them. So that's the mentality when it comes to New Orleans on offense and on defense. Control those 3 yards in line of scrimmage, get up by 2 scores, and then you get to pin your ears back and play some football because now you make that team one-dimensional. You make the Rams one-dimensional, and you start taking Gurley out of the playbook. You start taking Anderson out of the playbook, and now you have to throw the ball. Now there's some big plays that can happen. So, I believe that's a part of the game. And that happens, man. We're gonna see you're gonna see a lot to a little quickly.
Oh, that's beautiful. Now, I know you got to get running, but give us a prediction for the game.
I think it's going to be a tough one. I think it's going to be more like 28-24, somewhere around there. I don't think anybody's getting in the 30s. I don't believe it's going to be in the 40s like it was last time. I just think there's both teams have had a taste of how the other team plays. And no one wants to go through that. You don't want to go through a shutout. I mean, a shootout in the NFC Championship. It was I can remember when we played, Minnesota. It was a slugfest. It might have been the most physical game I've ever seen in my life. It was a slugfest. And I'm predicting something like that, like a slugfest. It's going to be close in the end. I think it will win by 3, 4, 7 at most. But it's going to be a physical game, and it's going to be exciting to watch just a physical game happen.
You're still sticking with the Patriots in the AFC. I know your prediction at the beginning of the playoffs was Saints Patriots.
Absolutely, guys. Rule number 1: don't bet against Tom Brady. A little more. No bet against Tom Brady in the AFC. Yeah, right. I mean, they're coming up with these ridiculous statistics earlier today. Earlier this week, like, he's made the AFC Championship like 75% of the time. I'm not like I wouldn't bet against that. You can't bet against that. So, to expect. I think it's going to be. I think that game's going to be fun to watch. But it's gonna, it's gonna be the same old story. Last possession, Tom Brady with the ball, 1.5, 2 minutes to going into the game. We've all seen this before, and he'll drive the field methodically, and before you know it, they'll either score or kick a field goal to go up. 10 seconds left in the game, game over, and it'll be the Patriots way. There you see, you've seen it. You've all seen this 100 times. The Patriots way.
Sadly, yeah. Sadly, yeah. But I don't like either team, so
it's sad when you can predict that. Like it's like it's just sad when you can sit here and say that's nine times out of 10 that's going to be a scenario. And whatever.
Oh, and Lonn, we love having you on so much. I know Kyle and I appreciate not only you taking some time to join us, but we appreciate your friendship too. We thank you so much.
I appreciate it.
Tell our listeners real quick about your Prime Sports app.
Man, yeah, I appreciate the shout out every time. Yes, I launched the app about a year ago. We're still live. We're still rolling. Prime workouts. Learn to get fit, man. It's about all of us just training and being the healthiest person we can be. And I appreciate your love. I appreciate the show, and I appreciate the opportunity. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for having me on. And I will do this again if Saints win. I will do this again for the Super Bowl. Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
Who that, baby? All right.
Who that, baby?
All right. Thanks, Lonn.
Not a problem. Y'all have a good night.
You too.
Thank you.
All right. Hey, do we have Snatcher on?
Yes, we have Snatcher on. And how you guys doing tonight? It's very good to hear the inspiration, the motivation. Everybody's fired up about this week coming up, and it's going to be exciting.
All right, Snatcher, man. I'm geeked to hear what you have to say, Backer.
Well, I disagree with some of the things saying that the Rams are not physical. You cannot have a back like Gurley and rush for over 2,000 yards last year and not be physical. It's some things that's, you can't be biased in this game. This game boiled down to turnovers. Mm-hmm. Who create the most turnovers? I'm kind of a realist. Last week, honestly, the Saints, we was fortunate to go down 14 and battle back. But I wouldn't dare say that you're gonna take the Rams' best player on defensive line and take him out of the game. It ain't been seen. It ain't been done. You can come with a scheme to protect Breeze, true, but you ain't gonna take him out of the game. That's almost like saying you're gonna take Michael Jordan out of a basketball game. That's the level this guy on. This is the platform that he plays on. So for me, you have to have some kind of scheme because he come to show up and show out. So when you get a player that's like, and Dominic Sue, I think is riding the wave because he getting double teamed. But when he was with Detroit, he was a beast. He was a man among boys. And I think he kind of settled in behind Donald's tailcoat instead of stepping up. But all in all, it's going to be physical. I'm giving the Saints a great deal of respect, because I'm a Saints fan, but I'm a realist. What's not going to happen is you're not going to say the Rams are not physical. Trust me on this one. You cannot have a back like that and gain them kind of yards and become offensive player of the year and not respect that. And for me, I'm looking for schemes. I'm looking for a little different. I think Peyton ought to throw more screen passes, left screen to the right, screen to the right, screen to the left, even screen up the middle. And I think that will slow Donald up. But to stop him, oh no, it ain't gonna happen. This guy is all pro. He's you know how you say he built for the hole? Now Drew Brees, what I'm looking at him to go back to the 4-5 yards in a cloud of dust. Get up, brush yourself off again, 4-5 yard cloud of dust. Now it's a first down on 2 plays. What we're going to have to do is try not to give the Rams the ball and compete with them. Just run plays that give us 2nd and 2, 3rd and 1. I think that's the way you beat the Rams. Because if you get behind the Rams 14 points, that's when that defensive line is going to get talking about eating out of 2 spoons. They're going to bring it because see, last week Drew went on the. Dallas got to him a little bit. They put him down on the canvas. That's not a good thing. That's really not a good thing because if they lose him, then what happens? You deflate that team. It's not like you can lose the number 1 quarterback like on the Philadelphia Eagles, and then the next guy step up, which is really good. If we lose Drew Brees, we're in for a long haul. Trust me on that.
Right.
Go ahead.
Let me ask you this, Snatcher. Now, you played nose tackle in college, but you went to defensive end, and you did very well as a pass rusher, right?
Yes.
At the beginning of a game like this, and being a premier pass rusher like Donald is, do you think that a lot of his emotion is going to be expended through the first half or the first quarter, or do you think the Saints, like you said, need to take advantage of the energy he's going to bring and throw those screens a lot more that first half?
Well, yes, but a guy like that, his emotion is not spent through his emotions. If you read stay with me now.
Okay.
He's not going to burn himself out because he knows the stakes that's on the line. A guy like that is not designed to get tired. Why? Because he's looking for that one more sack. In his contract, every sack he probably gets is close to $100,000 or maybe $250,000 per sack. When you line up, money is a great motivation. And let me tell you, I firmly believe that they're going to have to contend with this young man. He's going to be revving to play. He hustles, that's something you can't find, steal, nor borrow. You just got to have it in your heart. And he has it. And asking about what they really going to have to do, the man in front of him going to have to strap it up and bring his suitcase and his lunch, because that's what he's going to have to work with the whole day. I'm a realist. I say it like it's supposed to be said. You're not going to take that man out of the game. Now, here's what could happen. A lot of reverses, because he's quick to go inside. You can run reverse, and you can also get some good blocks on him. But to take him out of the game, emotion spent, the first half, second half, that guy has the same motor from play 1 to play 251.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, and Lonn has said it too. You guys highlighted probably the most important matchup of the game. I know everybody is talking about the matchups on the outside. The Saints, Michael Thomas versus Talib and Peters, and how are the Saints corners going to contend with the Rams receivers? And don't get me wrong, it's very important. But the Saints interior line did such a great job against Donald and Sue the last time. They held them to a combined 3 tackles and no sacks. And I'm like you, I don't expect that to happen again. Great players. These are the games that they show up in. So I'll be interested to see probably your game plan of coming out and throwing a lot of screens, especially early, to slow that pass rush would probably be the way to go about it, because that will really test the Rams linebackers' abilities to keep up with Ingram and Kamara, and even the screens that they like to throw to Thomas and Ginn. Do you see the Saints having a matchup advantage if that's the direction that their game plan goes?
The advantage that they will have is that will slow up the defensive line. And anytime you could break a train of thought to say, well, maybe I can get off the ball hard and react. These screens are so designed and so difficult to read until you're going to have great reaction to everything. It's going to be an opportunity, like you say, to see the game plan. But I also understand the Saints got a great offensive line. Now, here's what's going to happen. The game that they played last week, trust me, the Rams going to explore every opportunity they can. But I always known, and I want to wait on this part to say, Drew Brees and them receivers is going to eat them apart. That's going to be the matchup. That's going to be the matchup. Them receivers and the back out of the back that's coming out the backfield. There's no answer for him. Number 41.
Kamara.
Kamara. There's no answer for him. They're going to either have to put a safety on him, and if they put a safety on him, they could run a draw play and let him come up. Now, a safety got to take on a 300-pound offensive guard. That's taking candy from a baby. So it's going to be a chess match. Either the linebacker is going to have to really have some great speed to keep up with, because anything he catch, and he runs hard and he finish hard. He's not that big, but he represents whatever he carries. So yeah, it'll be a good opportunity to show their game plan.
One thing I was looking at, Bob and Snatcher, is the fact that I know Talib has always been a physical corner, right? But I noticed in the Cowboys game, he was not as physical with the wide receivers, but he kind of gave them more of a cushion than you would normally see. Do you think that's still some effects that he's not probably totally healthy yet?
Well, I mean, it could have been in the plan. Coaches probably were doing other things so that he didn't have no topside help. You never know. This game, he might be physical. He might come up, and it might be bump and run. There's all kind of opportunities, when coaches coach, and it looks from the outside like he's giving that cushion. But that's the game plan, because we don't want nobody to get behind our secondary. So this week will tell. I really can't answer that straight up, but I don't think it's an injury, because if it was an injury that could keep him out of it, he wouldn't be in it. And he has to have his tools with him, his legs, his mind, You can play with a cracked wrist, broken finger, but anything else, you got to pretty much, you're at a disadvantage. Yes.
Now, Snatcher, one of the recent big criticisms of Rams quarterback Jared Goff is that he gets real fidgety in the pocket if there's some heavy pressure that's getting put on him, and kind of bails out, for lack of a better term. Now, obviously, no quarterback wants to be pressured, and that affects, I don't care how good they are, pressure will affect them no matter who you are. But do you see a particular weakness when Goff is getting pressured that stands apart from the average quarterback?
I mean, it's hard for me to say because, you got guys breathing on your back with fire coming out their mouth. And they trying to kill you, not hurt you. And what man won't be in that situation? You name one that won't be illegitimate. You name one that won't have a dancing feet. You name one that. But now, the key to it is, can he move around in that pocket and find a throwing lane, then the bail out sooner than he should, give his offensive line an opportunity. I think that's what the last thing comes to a young player. I think that's the last thing. And if you notice Drew Brees, Drew was in the pocket. And I don't know how he got this one pass off. Oh, my God. Everybody was on him. But he threw it in the middle of the field. You can recall the play. And the guy caught the ball. It was unbelievable. I couldn't figure out how he got. So, in other words, it takes him years. Drew still could run, but by the fact that he stood in there and threw that pass showed me that didn't come overnight. You have to stay in there and give yourself an opportunity. And if Goff's going to run around like that, what's going to happen? He's going to end up throwing interception, or he's going to have to think ahead of the game and throw the ball away. That's a tough situation, you ask me. Any man would be jittery with that kind of pressure, yes.
And we were, I don't know if you had joined us on air yet when we were talking about the impact of Sheldon Rankins' injury to the Saints defensive line and defense as a whole. But I'd like to get your thoughts because you played the position so skillfully yourself. Rankins has had such a great season, and we feel bad for the young man. Certainly wish him a fast and healthy recovery. But what does his loss mean to the Saints defense against Gurley in this running attack especially?
It meant so much. I mean, when you lose a player of his caliber, you have a tendency to look to your right, or if you're on the left side, you look to your left, and you see this. You know what that guy can do. You don't have to worry about him. He takes up space, and the linebackers appreciate it. But it's a game that, and this is not meant to be harsh, it's a game next man up. It's just that simple. It seems cliche, but that is reality. I wish him well, and God, I hope you give him speedy recovery, that he come back better than he left, oh God. Mm-hmm. And that was a miniature prayer for him. But I just would, he'll be missed. He'll be missed. Oh, no doubt. But you can't worry about that. The thing he has to do, he has to show that the attitude, I'm not there, but I'm there in spirit. I'm not physically on that field, but expectations are high. I expect for you guys out there, 11 guys out there, to carry the boat, to keep it afloat. So, yeah, it affects, but these guys are grown men, and some things affect some people different ways. Now, if it would have been me and I lost a defensive tackle or a defensive guard, I would be disturbed. But shortly after that first play, and it was physical, I had to get back in there and erase all that out of my mind and try to bring that victory home, victory.
Yeah, I know that's right. Well, let me ask you this, Snatcher, because sometimes the Saints had the tendency to move Cam Jordan on the inside. And, Bob, you know, I kind of text you on this as well.
Yeah.
Do you think if the Saints were able to put Davenport, the young guy, on one side and Okafor on the other side and Jordan in the middle to kind of help out from time to time, would that be an advantage for the Saints?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the defensive line coach knows your strength. He knows where it's opportunities for you to get to the passer or it's opportunity to beat that man in front of you. Whatever, because they're not going to come there guessing. It's not time to guess. If he moves him in the inside, then he knows that it's an opportunity for a great stunt. They worked on it the whole week. I'm sure Coach Payton has went over with the defensive coordinator. It might be 3rd and 15. They might put a taller guy in there for to get in the throwing lane. Everything has a reason for moving people around. It's not just to confuse people all the time. It's sometimes a scheme and a strategy. So of course it can make a big difference, especially if it works. That's what they're looking for. Did they make the right call? So, but you play to your strength to win everything. You don't play to confuse people unless you really know it's going to do that to get some opportunities for your team.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and I was thinking just like you as far as being disruptive in the throwing lanes, because Goff has a tendency from time to time to throw the ball lower and have that length that Cam could possibly bring to the table, or even if they put the young guy in the middle, that could be a possible benefit for those guys.
Well, that is one of the things I mentioned, that it's a reason for moving him in there. And it might be the short side of the field. So, I mean, you make the field work for you on certain plays. So if you got the short side of the field working for you and you kind of figure you roll into that way with your secondary, then you may have to get your hands up because the guy might find a throwing lane and you can't get there because you double team. But if you get your hands up and give yourself an opportunity to block the pass, it can result into a interception, or it could cause him to pull it back down and give your defensive end another opportunity to keep fighting and grinding and get there and get that sack. Because a lot of quarterbacks know that you're in that throwing lane, they might pump fake it, bring it back down, and a lot of times they go down with that. So, yeah, it's some strategy in it.
Yeah, and I think it will depend on down and distance situations too. Just like you and I were talking earlier in the week, Kyle. If the Saints force the Rams in, say, a 3rd and long situation or an obvious passing situation, who are the 3 best pass rushers on that defensive line? Well, you know, it's Cam, it's Davenport, and it's Okafor now that Rankins is out. So if they go to what they used to, I don't know if they still call it this, but what they used to call their NASCAR package, last year they would move Cam inside on certain situations like that. So I think that, like you said, Snatcher, if they see a matchup problem where Cam can beat his man as a pass rusher inside, I think that we will see that in obvious passing situations. I don't know. I agree with you. I don't think that we'll see it on a down-by-down basis. because Cam does play the run very well, but he does so as an edge defender. So if they go double teaming him inside, he's a little bit overmatched, and he's kind of outside his element. And just like you talked about, you want to put your players in the best possible positions to make plays, and Cam is this defense's best player. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him move around a little bit during the course of the game, or the same with Davenport. But on base down situations, I think that they'll go with the younger guys inside and hope that they can just get some push up the middle.
Yes, but I tell you, it's in the back of my mind. Ingram has to come and play this game, the best game he ever played in a Saint uniform, because the opportunity, some of his time is being given to another player. I think if he doesn't do what he's supposed to do this game, and some of the stumbling blocks he went through, it's just on the back of my mind and in my memory bank, saying you got to come and you got to rush for 100 yards this game. No matter if you get 20 carries, it's got to equal 100 yards, because he done a really good job. But then he's not doing what I expect for him to do. He's not breaking them tackles. He's not getting 50-yard runs. And I'm looking for him to start, because he has all the tools. He has the speed. He has the agility. I just think that this is going to be, and I didn't want to leave him out of the situation. I know we was talking about defense, but I just had to mention him because he can be a very, very instrumental part of that victory if he comes to play.
Oh, there's no doubt. I completely agree with you, and I had him listed as an X factor for the team in a piece that I did earlier this week, and I agree. I couldn't agree more. We've already seen that the Rams had one heck of a time matching up with Kamara. But that's all the more reason why, Sean Payton is going to want to move 41 around the offensive formation to try to create mismatches. He doesn't want to give the ball to Kamara 20 times as a running back in this particular matchup. So that's where Ingram needs to step up and be productive and get some broken field runs. I agree with you. He had a solid game against the Eagles. Statistically, it would have been a lot better. He had two chunk runs called back by holding, via holding penalty. But he is going to have to come up big this game, not only so they can utilize Kamara as more of a versatile weapon, but it's to keep that, again, another reason to keep the pass rush off of balance is because you are able to establish your running game with 22. That's going to be key.
Yeah. Well, also, sometimes, and I noticed on two of the screens to Ingram, he had one-on-one with that defensive back, and he let that guy get lower than he was, man. And that guy kind of stone-blocked him, and I was kind of surprised on that one. That's usually one of those plays where he kind of abuses those guys, one-on-one situations.
Yeah, well, now that guy get a check too now. So, I'm a realist, man. That guy get a check too, and so on the other side of the earth, somebody's saying, "Great job, wonderful job." That's what we're looking for, And so, but then again, I understand your point. One-on-one. In open field, you're supposed to. Your expectation is high. You're supposed to elude the guy and get around him and do. But now the other guy gets a check too. But my thing is, Drew can get anything he wants if he gets that ball out of his hand. The minute he starts holding that ball in his hand, he's gonna cause a lot of confusion because they're going to send the package at him. They're going to send the package at him. He's got to go 1, 2, 3, let it go. He got to be on. He can't go 3 seconds with the ball. It's got to be like 2.2, 2.5. It's got to go. And whenever they decide to hold it, he's going to have to go deep with it because he got the weapons. He has the weapon. And I think if he can pick and choose when to throw the ball deep, I think that'll be a very good factor in the whole game because now you're looking at a little ball control. Because once you get a ball to the Rams, they're not looking. See, you got a young coach. Both of them coaches are young. But see, when you're young as a coach, fear is not a factor.
Right.
What is a factor is you're trying to impose your will on this other team. And you think that you can overcome mistakes because you're young. Now, on both sides of the ball. Now, a little older coach done seen and has more wisdom and has seen some mistakes he has made. So what this is going to tell me is they're going to try trick plays. They're going to go with maybe be aware of anything on both sides of the ball. When they do it, just think about snatch it because this is not going to be the typical, hike, 150 plays over here, hike 150 plays over here. It's going to be some trick plays, and I'm expecting from both coaches. And the thing with the coach from the Rams, he is a fiery guy. Now, you take Coach Payton. He's a fiery guy. And with that kind of heat on both sidelines, then your team going to feel that energy. They're going to step up. They're going to want to play, and they're going to want to win. But here's what I got to say. The team with the most players that playing in the playoff has been the Saints. So go back to what you were saying, Kyle Snatcher, the emotion part of it. I think the Rams as a whole, now as a team now, emotionally would be spent because of lack of experience in the playoffs. The Saints have some players on their team that have been to Super Bowl, has been in some playoff games, and been in some dog-eat-dog fights. So I think if that plays a part, the Saints should win. They should win. But I go back to what I first opened my mouth. I said the one with the least turnovers, the ones that stick to their game plan 100%, and the one that control the ball most of the clock. That's who's going to win that game. So.
Yeah. You know what? I was highly encouraged this past week, man, when the Saints had that 90-yard and was it 150-minute drive by. that and I thought about the conversation that you and Willie Rofe had with us weeks ago, how that demoralizes a defense. You can see when they went down and took up most of the third quarter, I think it was 11 minutes and 38 seconds or something to that nature, it really affected that defense.
It affects them because what happens with that is that you're playing your heart out, but at the same time, they are moving the ball down the field. Now, that is what you call ball control offense, and that's the kind of ball that they're going to have to play against the Rams. I truly believe it. You can't. Now, if anybody can go blow for blow, it's the Saints. But I say for the last 3 games, they have not been explosive like they was beating team 45-3, 50-something to 2. And I'm exaggerating on the 2. But they really was. It wasn't nothing stopping them. They was rolling. They was running on all cylinders, and which they still are. But they cannot afford to get down 14 on the Rams. They were just fortunate to come back and win this game. And the guy missed that. And the guy who missed the catch slipped through his hand.
Jeffrey.
Jeffrey. That was a blessing for the Saints. I'm telling you, because looked like he would have. And I'm not the one who gonna call it, but that would have gave him a big lift because they would have been on like the 21-yard line going in with a first down. So he lost his focus, and that's a good indication of an example when you're talking to someone about losing your focus. He saw the ball, he put his hand up, but he was thinking about running, and he lost his focus. Mm-hmm. But then again, that's an opportunity to show some people that you must stay in the moment until you receive the ball, and then whatever you can get, go ahead and get it. But yeah, Snatcher, you're right. It's gonna be a dandy. I tell you that.
Give us your prediction. How do you see the game going?
I think it's gonna be a high-scoring game. A lot of people think it's gonna be a low-scoring game. I think it's gonna be in the 30s. I'm serious. One team gonna be in the 20s and one gonna be in the 30s. Yeah. I don't foresee none of these teams stopping one of them. Just all of a sudden your defense gonna put an egg on the scoreboard or zero. No, it ain't been done the whole year. So it's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen this weekend coming up. What's gonna happen is, I think if the Saints come to play the who that football, ain't nobody can beat them. Ain't no team out there can beat them. But if they come there with that slow start and knowing Coach Payton, his beginning of the year, they had the record where they used to score first drive touchdowns. Anybody can recall that with me?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So now, what he's gonna do after that game they played, I'm almost sure when we all three sitting down watching it on three different houses, watch what Snatcher tell you. They're gonna go down and score that ball the first play. That's gonna be the game plan. They're working on it now as we speak. And when you're gonna be like, oh my God, that's what Snatcher told me. They're gonna have to make that statement. And Coach Payton know that feeling, and the rest of them know that feeling. So they're gonna take the first drive and go down with it. It's gonna be a game plan built for it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
That's good. Well, hey, one last thing, Snatcher, before you go, man. Tell us, how do I say this? Bob, one time Snatcher and I went to, we played a pickup game of basketball. Remember that, Snatcher, when we went to Suno?
Oh, of course.
Okay, so, Bob, we went in underdogs, of course, because it was me. I was just 12 at that time, and then the other person we had to pick up was that young lady, remember? Rosie, I think that was her name.
Yeah.
And these other three guys, Bob, they were thinking they were high flying and trying to dunk and do all this other stuff. So we said, yeah, we'll play y'all. And they totally did what? Underestimated what we could do, right, Snatcher?
Yes, they did. Yes.
And Rosie and I, all Snatcher would do is get the ball like Barkley or Rodman, get the ball, pass it out to us, and we were shooting those threes on this ball.
Yes.
And the reason why I bring that up, and I thought about that scenario, is that the Saints got to be that in that position, because everybody, especially the national media and everybody you hear ever since last week, it was, the Foles magic is going to be so great. And this week, I don't understand. I don't see how the Saints can stop the Rams. They're going to go down into that Superdome and just come away and go to the Super Bowl. They have to have that mentality. Okay, it doesn't matter what you bring. We know what we bring. And that's what I hear you saying, Snatcher, right?
Right. And now, here's another thing. You can take a bully. You might bully me at the grocery store. You might bully me at the schoolyard. But if you come in my yard where I live, on my address, now you ain't going to bully me there. Because now I'm another beast. My mindset is I'm not going to take a beating in front of my yard, bully. I'm going to give you what you're looking for today. Now, so that's kind of what it's going to be like. There ain't going to be no bullying coming in that Superdome. No. The Saints are saying, you're not beating me at home, because the 13th man on the field, if you'd have heard that stadium last week, I guarantee you the building cracked somewhere. They just ain't told us. Because there was some that's in them. Man, they were dressed, everywhere you look, they had on outfits, wall paint, hats, beads. It was on. I said, you know what? I said, I'm going to tell you something. That's intimidating. That is. When you come in there and you figure, well, hey, it's gonna be quiet, and it's gonna be. And did you see when Coach Payton raised his hand to get louder? Anybody saw that?
I saw that. Yeah.
So what that's saying to another team, hey, we're gonna turn on loudspeakers, even though we're in LA, to simulate what's gonna go on there. No. What you're going to do is in New Orleans is the originators. What they're going to do is imitators. So they ain't going to get the originator until they come to that country. Okay? So let's don't get it twisted. They're going to get it. They're going to get it. Yes. All right, fellas.
All right, well, Snatcher, thank you.
Yes, thank you so much.
I thank both of y'all, man. Opportunity to express the real, and set so many people that has not put on a helmet, and so many people that have put on a helmet that's forgotten. We as a group take you in the mind of a football player, and we can actually put you in there. And I know you can visualize what all of us are saying on this radio show. So you just took a ride that you can't find, steal, nor borrow. You got to come to this station and get it. That's the only way you're going to get it. That's the closest thing. Guys, I appreciate y'all. I love y'all. Happy New Year's to you, and many more blessings to y'all, okay?
All right, Snatcher. Appreciate you, man.
And to you.
Who that?
Thank you.
Who that talking about beating them? Saints. Who that?
All right.
Let me get my ball. All right. I tell you. All right. Good night, fellas. Good night.
All right. Take care, man. Bye.
Bye.
Good stuff, Bob. Good stuff.
Oh, great stuff, and we want to thank both guys for coming on. They're both friends of the show, friends of ours, and they put the game so eloquently, and like he said right there at the end, what they try to do. I mean, both Lonn and Kenny were fortunate. They lived out a dream that a lot of us from young boys didn't have an opportunity to certainly get to their level. But they do such a great job of explaining the game that you and I try to break down, and hopefully we do okay. But they do it from a player's perspective. We've had so many great guests on to do exactly that. So we've been fortunate on this show to have so many good friends and such great analysis by all of them.
Definitely. And one thing you gotta do is think like, I wouldn't say a warrior more so, but yeah, think that you have competition that's trying to take something that you really want. What are you going to do? Are you going to just, like you said, are you just going to allow that to happen in your house? I don't think so. And when I look at these matchups on championship weekend from the NFC to the AFC, that other intangible element, like he mentioned, the fans and being at home and knowing your family's there, knowing people you love are out there in the stands and rooting you on, I think that has a lot of energy, and it creates the atmosphere that you want to win. And if you notice, man, in order for that team to shut Philadelphia down for 3 straight quarters, and I know Marshawn's great play was a catalyst, and I know Taysom's great play was a catalyst as well, but that energy from the fans really propelled the Saints, man. And you saw people who did not stop believing, even after being 14 down. And that's what I appreciated in our fans that weekend. I know I heard some guys on Twitter were saying this, and some guys on social media were saying that. Those are fair weather friends. But if you believe, you believe. And even going down to if it's just 1 second left, you believe. So fans are just going to have to continue doing what they're doing to support our boys in the black and gold. I really believe that Sean Payton, and in a lot of ways, Bob, I thank God for allowing them to go 14 points down, because I don't think you're going to see that this game. That was kind of like a wake-up call for those guys.
Yeah, I think so too. And I kind of thought that and wondered that at the time. But Joe Lonn sort of confirmed it. That they needed some rust knocked off of them. And heck, give Philadelphia all the credit in the world. They went down like champions. I mean, they came out and they gave New Orleans their best shot. But in the process, that sort of woke the Saints up, both offensively and defensively. And for the final 3 quarters, they played as dominant as you can. I realize when you compare the other divisional playoff games that took place last weekend, I think the Saints won by the smallest margin of victory. But if you take a closer look at all of those games, with the possible exception of the Patriots decimating the Chargers, the Saints' performance was probably the most dominating if you take out those first 2 Philadelphia drives. And I'm like you, I don't think that we're going to see that happen again. And I think all of us, to a man that was on the show tonight, think that if it does happen, the Saints are in a lot of trouble because the Rams just have too much talent. That defense is built to protect a lead rather than slug it out in the trenches. And we know what the Rams can do offensively to keep the defense off of balance. So if they get a couple scores up, just like the New Orleans mentality that Joe Lonn described to us, their game plan when he was there, and it continues today, their game plan is predicated about getting 2 scores up early. Score on your first 2 possessions, hold serve on your first 2 possessions of defense, and then we can really get to work because that's what this team is built to do, is to protect and expand on a 2-score lead. And it's the same thing with the Rams. We talked about it earlier in the season when these 2 teams were getting ready to play around Halloween, that the Rams had built their team and eerily similar to the way the New Orleans Saints are built on both sides of the football, and coaching staff included, a high emotion, kind of a riverboat gambler mentality, a circle the wagons mentality. So yeah, I think and a team like the Rams can and will bring the best that the Saints have to offer. So I don't think that I don't think that New Orleans is gonna come out sluggish this game. I think that they're gonna come firing out on all cylinders.
Right. Look, man, I've been watching the Rams Kansas City game from earlier this year, and when you watch that game and watch how the Rams were up, and if it were not for those two defensive scores, they were in trouble.
Yeah.
They did come back down a few times on offense to, eventually win the game, but they were in trouble if those two scores didn't happen. Now, the one guy that I'm really concerned about, I'm not concerned about Cooks as much as I'm concerned about how Woods is going to be defended, and I'm also concerned Reynolds has been gaining a lot of confidence in the past game as well, so Eli Apple and PJ, again, how are these guys going to show up and be able to make a statement, so to speak? PJ at critical times usually gets those PIs. Eli Apple, this game, he didn't have one, right? I was kind of surprised. But, those are the things that usually happen. And it wasn't until those guys went to man that you saw the difference in how well they were able to cover those wide receivers. Same thing, man. They're just going to do we go man from the beginning of the game, or is it the zone plays, or what, I think we're going to have to do something to be able to have Goff to at least hold that ball an extra half a second to a second more, like Snatcher said, to be able to effectively get to Goff. And because he can get the ball out of his hand quickly if the receivers are just left open. So there's so many things we can talk about, Bob. And, I'm a homer on this one. I don't care what people say. I just know in my heart that Drew Brees is going to lead this team back to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, the matchup itself worries me. The individual matchups all over the board interest me and worry me. I'm a Saints fan, and anybody that's a true Saints fan and a long-term Saints fan will tell you that this team, this Sean Payton team, could be going up against a Pee-wee football team, and I would find a way to be worried. But the Rams are certainly not that. They come into the game with the same record as the Saints. Both teams have top 5 offenses. Both teams have difference makers on the defensive side of the ball. I think that the Saints are a more complete football team. And I'm like you. I have a hard time envisioning, short of anything weird happening, I have a hard time envisioning the Saints losing this football game. I think the Eagles game early on was kind of a slap in the face to them, a dose of reality that they're gonna have to come out sharp. Even if it's a 60-minute game, so it's hard to shut. Yeah, these are the Los Angeles Rams and the New Orleans Saints. Neither team is going to shut the other out. There's playmakers all over the place, and they're going to make plays. But I think that the Saints are built for this exact moment, and it's the moment that they have been pointing at, for 1 year and 1 week. They've had this date circled on the calendar. They've had this opportunity circled on the calendar. And I think that it's big that these teams did play earlier in the year. because Sean Payton and that coaching staff, who has been so wonderful during the year at making in-game adjustments, we can not only expect that from them again, but they have film to go by. Every team has film on every other team. We know that. But now they have film to go by from a recent game at how the Rams played their personnel. And I think that that's key, and that's something that's going a little bit unnoticed. Not that I'm taking anything away from Sean McVay and his coaching staff. He has a lot of experience there, especially Wade Phillips as the defensive coordinator. But Peyton and his staff, they are seasoned. They are confident in their personnel. Both teams are relatively healthy outside of Rankins and Cooper Kupp for the Rams. So I don't think that that's going to be a major factor. I see the Saints coming into this game a little bit more prepared. And like Snatcher pointed out, and Joel on before him, playoff experience is key. And while this is the first appearance in the NFC Championship game for a lot of players on this Saints roster, there are key players and coaches that have been to this spot before. You can't say that about the Rams. I'm sure if we went through their 53-man roster, we could come up with a couple. But other than Wade Phillips, there's nobody that really jumps to mind that has experience, and Aqib Talib. There's nobody that really jumps out to me that has experience at this playoff level. So I think that that's important too. And while they